Hi and welcome to Sims Racing. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the recent dry spell. It's been a while since I last uploaded a video, as there have been a few other projects I had to prioritize, and at this moment I'm still recovering from an illness. Now, before we get into the video itself, I'd like to thank everyone that continues to support my channel. A few weeks ago it reached 500 subscribers, and for me personally it's a huge milestone. I truly appreciate everyone that sticks around, so again, from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Moving on to the matter at hand, the final pre-release update for WRC 10. The past couple of weeks, KT Racing has released several bits and bobs, including several images, 2 new trailer videos and exclusive pre-release interviews with creative director Alain Jarniou. I'll begin with the oldest bit of news and end with the latest tidbits. In the description down below you'll find all the links to the videos and interviews in case you want to check them out yourself. So strap yourselves in and let's get into it. So let's start off by taking a look at the 2 images KT Racing posted on their Facebook page. The first one depicts the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 5 Group A, which is part of the Deluxe Edition package. I expect the Lancer to be available as paid DLC as well, either from launch or perhaps a short while after that. And looking at it, I must admit that once again it doesn't look very good, does it? As is the case with many, if not most of the classic or legendary cars, it has a low poly 3D model with several inaccuracies. It's very bland with not much else going on. I've seen more detailed and better looking 3D car models in games that are over a decade old. When it comes to the inaccuracies I mentioned before, I think you can easily spot them. Yes, indeed, it's the tires and wheel rims. While this is the tarmac spec of the car depicted in the image, it looks like the Lancer has been fitted with gravel tires instead. This is something that has been an issue for many years now, and there are 2 possible reasons for it as far as I know. Either they can't be bothered to fix it, or it has to be this way due to how their tire physics or physics in general work, and I suspect the latter might be the case. Unfortunately, that means there's something fundamentally flawed in their physics. Furthermore, this image shows once again that lighting and reflections of the 3D car models isn't all that good in WRC 10. Next up we have the image of the Subaru Impreza S4 WRC from '97, which is included in the pre-order package. As is the case with the Lancer, I expect it to be available as paid DLC post-launch. And oh boy, this one looks even worse than the Lancer in my honest opinion. We see the same issues and inaccuracies return. I mean, check out how high the car sits in its tarmac spec, and look at how thick those tarmac tires are. Comparing it to the real car, you can immediately see how bad this is. There are several other examples of inaccurate 3D modeling. It's missing the black strip underneath the front bumper, and the side skirts are also incorrectly modeled. Those 2 examples are just the obvious ones I instantly picked up on. Oh, and don't get me started on lighting and reflections. The shadow on the ground suggests that the sun is behind the car, yet you can see through the vents of the front bumper as clear as day. The reflections on the windows look terrible as well, but that's mainly because someone forgot to edit them in order to match the image's background. I know you are probably tired of hearing me say this, but despite the fact that the cars should be the centerpieces of the game, they look worse than most other elements in it. That's especially the case for the classic or legendary cars. It's such a shame that these cars do not receive the love they truly deserve. Time and time again we get slapped in the face by this, to the point that I'm actually starting to feel really sad each time I see one of them. The next day, KT Racing and Nakon released a trailer video showcasing the Impreza and one of their new locations, San Remo. I was hoping that the car would look somewhat better, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. The car still sits extremely high, the tires and rims still look terrible, and dear lord, what's going on with those wheel wells? In WRC 10 they are white and can be seen so clearly. How is that even possible? How did they get something so obvious, so terribly wrong? The wheel well liners should be black or dark grey, and you should not be able to see much of the color because of the shadow created by the wheel well itself. Honestly, this is beyond unacceptable. Furthermore, the names on the side windows are incorrect as well. This might just be something insignificant for some of you, but if you recreate legendary cars and want to celebrate them, as well as the drivers and co-drivers, please for the love of God, do it correctly. KT Racing did such a horrendous job once again when it comes to 3D car models. I could continue discussing it, but what's the freaking point? I'm honestly done with this nonsense. Luckily for me, there was still something that lifted my spirits: San Remo. From the few fragments we are able to see, it looks really good and pretty authentic. I became a bit nostalgic, as San Remo was one of my favorite locations to drive in when playing Evolution Studios WRC 3 back in the early 2000s. Driving through those small Italian villages, on the narrow and bumpy mountainous roads, seeing those tight corners as well as those fallen leaves on the ground, it takes me back and I'm rather looking forward to driving there again. So when it comes to the environment, KT Racing actually did a very good job. It's so strange that the environments are fantastic but the cars themselves are not. They don't really blend well together because of the massive difference in quality. So what else did I pick up on whilst watching this trailer? Well, the engine sound is still an overlay and not the actual in-game audio. The fact that they haven't put any real in-game sounds in their trailers suggests that it's not really worth showing off, and that can only mean one thing: it's not that good. KT Racing stated that lots of work went into revamping the audio, but based on what we have or haven't heard, I predict complaints will pop up the moment WRC 10 launches. Anything else? Well, the person recording the footage for these trailers is still using a controller instead of a wheel, something I find very odd for a rally game that claims to be leaning heavily towards simulation. And that's pretty much it. It's a short clip, so there's not much else we can pick up on. Nine days after releasing the trailer featuring San Remo and the Impreza, KT Racing released a full car/livery list that will be available at launch. We have all the liveries of the official teams competing this year, as well as some of the privateers, including the one of Hayden Paddon. Then we have 22 liveries from the drivers that competed most regularly in the WRC 2 and 3 categories, including the Skoda Fabia of my mate, Chris Ingram. So there will be 7 Skoda Fabia liveries, 6 Citroën C3s, 5 VW Polos, 3 Ford Fiestas and 1 Hyundai i20. We will also have the 8 Junior WRC liveries, including the one of another dear friend of mine, John Armstrong. Unfortunately, his car won't have any of the Codemasters or Codemasters Dirt Rally team logos on it, for obvious reasons of course. The legendary cars will be wrapped in some of their most iconic liveries as well. Let's just go over them one by one. The Lancia Fulvia HF will feature the official 1972 Team Fulvia design, whilst the Alpine Renault A110 Berlinette will be in an updated version of its classic blue 1973 Monte Carlo colours. The Lancia Stratos won't have its iconic Alitalia livery, but rather Sandro Munari's white, black and red design. The Audi Quattro A1 from 1981 will be the car that was driven by Michèle Mouton, and rightfully so. She proved the world that there are women out there who are able to give those men a real run for their money. The Audi Sport Quattro A2 will have Stig Blomqvist's livery on it, whilst Walter Röhrl's 1983 Lancia 037, which featured in WRC 9, has received some updates. The Peugeot 205 T16 Evolution will be showcasing Ari Vatanen's livery, whilst the 205 T16 Evolution 2 will have Timo Salonen's name on it. The Lancia Delta HF 4-wheel drive will be the one Juha Kankkunen drove in 1987. The Lancia Delta HF Integrale Evoluzione, on the other hand, will just be the generic one from WRC 9 without any updates. The Toyota Celica GT4 has Carlos Sainz's livery on it from the 1992 season. Meanwhile, the Toyota Celica Turbo 4-wheel drive will be the car Juha Kankkunen drove during the Safari Rally in 1993 and will have the Safari package on it. Then we have Colin's 97 Subaru Impreza S4 WRC we saw earlier, as well as Tommy Mäkinen's Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 5 Group A from 98. The Toyota Corolla WRC will shine in a generic version of their 99 colours. The Citroën Zara WRC will feature 2 of Loeb's liveries, namely the ones from 2004 and 2005. Not sure as to why they put almost 2 identical cars/liveries in the game though, but that probably has something to do with the historical mode. Next up we have the Ford Focus RS WRC from 2007 with the official Ford M Sport livery on it. Then we have the new Citroën DS3 WRC, which will rock Peter Solberg's 2011 design. Sébastien Ogier's VW Polo RWRC will be available as well, and last but not least, Otanak's Toyota Yaris WRC from 2019. Aside from these cars, WRC 10 will contain some bonus ones as well, including the Gazoo Racing Yaris Rally concept, the Citroën C3 WRC with Loeb's 2018 and Ogier's 2019 livery, as well as the colours from the Pirelli tyre team. And finally, there's the Porsche 911 GT3 RS RGT and the Proton Iris Rally 2 with the same designs as in WRC 9. Now, according to the article, KT Racing won't stop there. It will release 2 major patches, which will include additional rally cars, new stages, historical events and more. Which new cars exactly is still unknown. A few days after releasing their car entry list, they shared a video of an interview by Overtake GG with Alain Jarniou, the creative director for WRC 10. Now, from the very start, it becomes clear that the interviewer and other people involved on that site aren't very familiar with the rally game genre, as the interviewer's first lines are as follows.
Rally racing, one of the racing disciplines out there. But if you think about rally games, there only ever comes one series to mind. WRC, developed by Kyloton.
Every person that plays rally games knows that this statement is completely false. I know it's all part of the PR, but saying something like this immediately sets the tone. Stating this makes me instantly question everything that comes afterwards. And it doesn't get better from there. The introduction to her first question is as follows.
Okay, so staying on the topic of sim racing games, with the WRC series, you are developing the biggest and most renowned rally racing series.
Again, this is a bold statement and one I don't agree with, as will many others. The interview goes on and Alain discusses WRC 10 and its development. Not really anything there that we didn't already know. However, there was one question that offered us a bit of information about what's in store post-launch.
So are you planning to do any other kind of rally games in the future, or just stay with WRC for now?
So you know that, of course, then we are still working on WRC 10, because maybe you know that we will have free update of the game. So 1 month after the launch and 2 months after the launch, you'll get new game modes and new countries, new cars. So that's stuff that we are still working on.
So this answer provides extra information when it comes to those free patch updates. The first patch will come 1 month after launch, whilst the second patch will be out a month after that. Now, we know that the Acropolis Rally will be added in one of those patches and the Wipers Rally Belgium in the other, but which one will be added first is still unknown. However, I do predict that the Acropolis Rally will see the light of day before the Wipers Rally Belgium. The reason for that has to do with the fact that we already saw footage of the Acropolis Rally in one of their trailer videos, whilst there hasn't been any sort of footage, images or video of the Wipers Rally Belgium. So for all the fans of the Wipers Rally Belgium, including myself as I live in the area, I suspect we'll have to wait 2 more months before we'll be able to drive those challenging roads in the Wipers countryside. That same question also puts Alain in a bit of an awkward position, as he has to talk about future rally titles KT Racing is planning to work on. You can clearly hear the awkwardness in his voice when he talks.
We will work on next opus of WRC series. So WRC 11 will come next year, and then we'll see. I can't tell you more, but you know, we love to do racing, and we love to do rally, especially. So we are still working on rally at Kiloton, I can tell.
A couple of days later, they released another post talking about one of their new features, Shakedowns. Creating a post about a new feature normally suggests that it's something that hasn't been done before, or something that is different from what other developers have done in the past. You know, where people go, wow, look at this, that's cool. If the Shakedowns feature a completely different section of road, which represents the roads you'll be driving on out there on the stages, I would have gone, yeah, that's nice, well done. However, that's not exactly the case here. It's just the same type of Shakedowns we have in the Dirt Rally franchise, so slightly overhyped by the developers in my opinion. 2 days after that, they shared another exclusive interview with Alain Jarniou, this time conducted by motorsport.com. It's not a video, but rather an article. Reading through the article, I did find a few bits that I didn't really agree with. Firstly, Alain says the following. With all the experience, the feedback from our community and the passion we put in our games, I think we managed to reach a great level of quality in terms of the simulation and the overall WRC experience and entertainment. Looking at certain major aspects of their WRC titles in the past and their new title WRC 10, I'm not so sure that everyone is as passionate as he believes. And I don't think everyone in the community will agree with the words great level of quality in terms of simulation. Two very important elements are far below great quality, and you probably know what I'm talking about. Yes, I'm referring to the quality of the audio and the 3D car models. In the next bit of the article, he mentioned that WRC 9 was a breakthrough rally sim. Sure, they improved the physics considerably compared to previous titles, but calling it a rally simulator? As of today, there isn't a consumer rally title out there that can be called a true simulator. The heavily modded Richard Burns Rally is the only one that comes closest to it. The Dirt Rally franchise takes second place and is leaning heavily towards being a rally sim. Now, I know the people behind the franchise are working on something, and I'm convinced that Dirt Rally 3, or whatever it's going to be called, will be categorized as a rally simulator. The WRC franchise, developed by KT Racing, is still quite a bit removed from being called a rally sim. However, it's a good and fun simcade rally title. And what Alain says about simulation being a truly complex subject is absolutely correct. Developing a circuit racing simulator is already a big task, but having to create a simulator for any and all types of surfaces is in a league of its own. Now, he continues to talk about other physics improvements they made concerning aerodynamics, suspension and more. The writer then provides his own input, which is somewhat odd. He writes, "Based upon our hands-on preview earlier this year, the dynamics appear to be a step forward once again, and I found it easier to control with a gamepad than before without taking away any of the feedback. But how these changes work when the final game is complete, we'll hopefully find out soon." So he acknowledges what Alain said about improvements to the dynamics, which I assume refers to aerodynamics, as he was able to control the car easier with a gamepad than before. I'm not exactly sure, but being able to control the car easier with a gamepad doesn't mean that the devs were able to more realistically simulate the aerodynamic forces and other elements of the physics. I'm skipping over the next section of the article, as I'll discuss that in the final update section of the video. Now I'll go straight to the final bit before the 5 quickfire questions. Here the writer states the following. On paper at least, WRC 10 should be the most feature-rich officially endorsed rally game so far, with an inimitable range of features and a realistic driving experience. That release date can't come soon enough. Here there are 2 elements that I'm having issues with. The most obvious one being a realistic driving experience. That bit is debatable, as in my honest opinion it's a simcade rather than a true sim title. The second element concerns the word inimitable. That word is defined as so good or unusual as to be impossible to copy, unique. It's a very strong word that should not be used lightly. I must admit that WRC 10 has loads of different features, but it's far from unique or impossible to copy though. In the 5 quickfire questions there was one thing I wanted to touch on as well. When talking about online clubs, Alain said that there will be a more realistic mode for increased challenge and setup possibilities. That final bit about setup possibilities does raise some questions. Will there be an option to have even more advanced setup possibilities than what we saw in the demo? I can't remember exactly, but you weren't able to change either the brake bias or braking force, which I found very odd, and maybe with this you'll be able to do it. The final nugget of the pre-launch news came in the form of another trailer which showcased their new livery editor. And I must say that I'm happy to conclude this video on a positive note, because the livery editor is really impressive. The developers have outdone themselves here and they deserve the praise for it. It looks like you'll be able to paint separate body panels in different colors, and there are lots of them to choose from. You'll also have the option to make colors look matte, glossy or even pearlescent. You'll be able to select letters, numbers, shapes and patterns as decals, allowing you to deform them in lots of different ways and eventually end up with either a recreation of an existing design or your own unique design. As a designer myself, this is definitely my favorite new feature, and I'll spend lots of time designing new cars in there. The only thing you won't be able to do is share them with the community. That would have been the icing on the cake. So there we have it, my final pre-launch news update for WRC 10. Just as a reminder, WRC 10 releases on September the 2nd, which is just a few days from now. I'll give it a go to see if there have been some major improvements since the demo, with an honest in-depth review coming at some point in the future as well. So if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful in any way, feel free to give it a like. And if you want to see more of our content in the future, consider subscribing and clicking that notification bell. It would be much appreciated, as this helps out the channel a lot. Thank you for watching, good luck and goodbye.